Oh, you can read me.
There we go. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Lovely People webinar. And tonight we have as our guest the lovely Anne Curtis, who I've just been having a little bit of a chat with before we started the recording. And she is in France at the moment, in a beautiful place by the sound of it, by the Pyrenees, the bottom of the mountains. So sounds absolutely delightful, and it's also a really warm evening here. So everyone's in a nice place with a lot of nice sunshine. So thank you for joining us, Anne. What we tend to do on our Lovely People webinars is find out a little bit about our lovely guest, because for me, how the Lovely People webinars came about was that it always felt to me the world felt like a big bad scary place, and as if it was full of a lot of people out to get me, and people, you know, not so nice people. And then when I came across the principles and how I saw the world really changed, and I saw all these lovely people everywhere, all over the place, just these really nice people who just want to help, and, you know, so it's really lovely to connect with people who have kind of seen a similar sort of thing. So do you want to tell us a little bit about you, Anne, and what is it you do in the principles world?
Yes, okay. Well, yes, thank you for having me here, and it's really good to be here. It was very interesting the way that we met initially, because when the two of you got in touch with me to say, oh well, we were going to do a webinar this week about, you know, for mental health awareness, and can we come on yours? And I'm like, who are these people?
Who are these crazy people?
Who are these people? But I had no idea. I was like, oh, okay, fine, you come on, and you know. And then we had such a great time. It was so good. It was a really good, chat that we had.
Fun.
So I thought, this would be good fun to do. It's interesting actually, because I'm so busy most of the time interviewing other people or doing things with other people that I don't very much talk about me or what I do very often.
Oh, so
yeah. And the story can go on a long time, so I'll make it, a briefer thing. But basically, I always knew from being very tiny that things were not what they seemed, and that there was some other higher power, and that there was something that seemed like magic. I can remember my grandfather when I was very little giving me a magic wand and telling me, that I could do things with it, and really meaning it, trying to get me to understand that there was more to life than we could see in this reality. And my grandmother, his wife, that grandmother, because I had 4 grandparents, but so that grandmother also, well, actually both my grandmothers talked about ghosts and seeing ghosts and things, and this one grandmother had also had a near-death experience, and had, seen all the lights and seen her mother coming towards her and come back again. So there was all sorts of things around that I had in mind, that I thought, oh, well, I know that there's more, but I didn't quite know how that related to me. And my mother was quite religious, but I wasn't I didn't like the church religion part of it. It just seemed to me that people were going to church and then they were going home and doing something completely different. That they weren't, it's like, that doesn't make sense to me. And I was like, well, why do you need to go to church? If God is everywhere, why do you need to go to church anyway? And I couldn't understand how there could be different religions either. If there was like one God, I couldn't understand that. So I was more inclined to be a bit more like Buddhist thinking, as the little I knew about it, that sort of thing. Anyway, and also I noticed that from when I was very little, I noticed that people weren't very happy. I know now, looking back, that I took my own feelings very seriously, and until very recently, I now understand that I misunderstood guidance. So I knew there was guidance, but I took my uncomfortable feelings to be guidance as well as intuition and so on, which is what got me pretty confused over the years, I think. So as a child, I was aware of a lot of people, well, two things really. One was two adults, parents that I knew, not my parents, but parents of other people that I knew, died of cancer very young, which upset me and obviously upset the children a lot. And so when I was about 10 or 11, I decided to find a cure for cancer.
Wow.
So I decided that was what I was going to do with my life. And then, but even before that, I noticed that a lot of people had unhappy relationships, and I was so wanting relationships to be happy, you know, and everybody to have happy relationships. That was one of the things I also wanted to do, was to find some way to make sure that relationships were happy. And it seemed to me that that was one of the most important things in my life, was to have a happy relationship, which has been quite interesting, really. But anyway, yeah, we'll come on to that. So I discovered that I thought I was going to be a research scientist, and then I discovered that meant being in a laboratory all day, and there was no way I could do that. So in the end, I ended up training to be a doctor instead, and thinking I could help people that way. But until when I qualified, and that was pretty heavy going, and so heavy going that a lot of doctors that at least two doctors that I know of had psychotic breakdowns in their first year of after qualifying, because it was such a big responsibility and so on after qualifying, or it seemed to be, because of the way we were thinking.
Yeah.
And which I know now, but didn't know then, obviously. And even then, I was really disappointed when I qualified, because I couldn't cure people. I thought I was going to be able to cure people, you know. I couldn't really help them in the way that I wanted to. And also, I didn't like the fact that the approach was so non-holistic. You know, it didn't include psychology, never mind spirits. You know, I think the training does a bit more now, but there was really almost nothing in it about that. And although I quite like the idea of doing psychotherapy training, if I did that as a doctor initially, I had to train as a psychiatrist, and there was no way I was doing that. I didn't like the psychiatric approach either. So I just did different jobs, and ended up accidentally really doing general practice after about 5 or 6 years in hospital, I should think. Ended up doing general practice, and while I was in general practice, or when I was training to be a GP, I came across psychosexual medicine, which they were teaching to family planning doctors and GPs, because they'd found that a lot of women were coming along for intimate examinations and were telling doctors all about their sexual problems, and doctors hadn't got a clue what to do with them. So that really, so I thought, oh, this is a way in. So I went and did the training in that for 4 years. And at just around the time that I qualified, that I finished my qualification, my first husband left me. And I was like, that sort of doesn't fit in. You know, I've just trained to be a sexual and relationship therapist. And my husband has just left me. And I have no idea why or
how dare life do that to you?
But I just like, there's got to be something missing in this, you know. So although some of the people I was seeing were getting really good results, and I was mostly doing psychosexual work and relationship stuff at that stage, some people were getting really good results, and other people were not. You know, as far as I was aware, I was doing the same thing with these people, And some people were getting really good results and other people weren't getting anywhere at all, including me. Right? Including me. That was a bit of a giveaway, really. So, and when I asked the consultant psychotherapist whose department I was under, why was that? Like I had one girl who was coming to see me who could not consummate her marriage, and we'd gone through, and she was trying her hardest to do all the stuff that and she had been coming to me for 2 years and was not getting anywhere. And I said to the consultant psychotherapist, well, what else can I do? What else can I do? And he said, oh, you can't do anything. She's just not ready. And I'm like, yeah, right. That's really helpful. So at that point, I was training to do psychotherapy as well. And in the end, I thought, well, all I'm learning from this is that it doesn't work. This is like conventional psychotherapy. It doesn't get the results I'm looking for. So I then went and did training in everything else I could find, really, in NLP and hypnotherapy and EFT and whatever else I could find. And all of those things helped more and more quickly, so that it seemed as if more people got the results they were looking for, or but there were two things. One was that not everybody did, and still I wasn't getting the results that I wanted in my life, either with relationships, particularly with relationships, and also what was the other biggest thing in my life was money. Like I would mainly because I didn't like what I was doing. Like I would, if I was doing the psychosexual work, I liked it, and I would make some money, and then I would think, this isn't working well enough, and I don't like charging people for when I don't know it's working, and then I would be not having money again. So whatever I did, I spent so much money on doing one course after another, and so many hours doing all of these courses. And I spent most of my life doing that, going after another course and another course and another course, and still not getting the results I wanted. And eventually, and I went in and out of general practice. I ran my own general practice for about 2 years, which worked better because it meant I could do my alternative stuff, without other people. And I did lots more training in energy healing and all sorts of other things. So I knew that there was something. I knew that there was something energetic, and I knew that there was more to this than just the physical and just the psychological, and that they were all interacted. But I couldn't quite work out how or what to do with it. And eventually, I was just getting burned out, basically. And in general practice, it was all just getting too much for me, too much responsibility. And I was like, and I felt that I didn't like charging people because I couldn't guarantee that they would get results. And I didn't really feel like I got the answers, basically. So in 2009, I packed in my practices and decided, right, I'll use what little savings I've got. I came to France, to my sister's place in France, and decided I was going to start an internet business. I'd done lots of studying about internet business, but the thing was, I hadn't got anything that I really wanted to do. I had started writing lots of books around the therapy and the things that seemed to work, but because I didn't feel like I had the answers, I didn't really feel like I could finish the books, or that. So basically, I ran out of money. I ran out of money altogether and got into debt. And I was doing a lot at that stage. I was doing a lot of the positive thinking things and the manifesting stuff and all of that, and then feeling bad that I was failing at all of that as well, but still trying to stay positive, because if I didn't, that was not going to work either. And it was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of hard work and a lot of absolutely exhausting. And I noticed also that there were a lot of other people, and I read a study somewhere that said that all of this personal development work and all of these techniques and so on had something like 5% success rate. And everybody else, you know, and that's I don't know exactly what that study was, but it was a fairly reasonable study as far as I remember. And they said that there was about a 5%, and it was those 5% who were then giving the testimonials and saying, yes, this worked for me. And of course, now I can see it wasn't the techniques that was working. It was, you know, just people happened to get it right. It just happened that was. And I'm not saying that the techniques didn't help that, because I think sometimes they do. And certainly, you know, things like hypnotherapy can help you to be in a space where you do see things more clearly. But it's not the now everything's become clearer. Okay, so I had just given up on all of that, and interestingly, I ended up going back to Jersey because I was completely out of money, and I had to sort out some way of getting some money, and I had no idea how I was going to do it. And I was getting myself into such a state. And then, and I thought, no, I've got to stay positive. I've got some positive thinking and all of this stuff. So I knew that in the past, when that had happened to me, I had made myself do the things that I enjoyed doing. Go for walks on the beach, and go for walks on the sand dunes, and really enjoy, you know, notice what was lovely about it and really enjoy it. And I thought that was positive thinking, right? So I went and did all of those things, and a former colleague of mine, a sort of a friend who had taken over my general practice, suddenly out of the blue came and gave me a whole lot of money, which sort of, completely out of the blue. And I was like, oh, it does work then. Right. So that paid off my debts pretty much. And then I really didn't know what I was going to do. And then my mother got cancer. So that sort of focused my mind. And I had, in my medical practice, because I'd done all these alternative things, I had looked after a lot of people who wanted to use alternative cures for cancer. And one of the first ones that I had looked after had got better completely, had actually cured herself of cancer. And she wrote a book about it and told everybody to come to me. And she also was a lay preacher, so she told everybody in all the churches about what had happened and to come to me for this treatment as well. And it was fairly clear to me that it wasn't, that not the same treatment is going to work for everybody, and it wasn't necessarily that. And at that time, it seemed to me that it was her state of mind that had played a big part in her healing, because she had been totally convinced that she was going to get better from it, because she had a complete faith in God, and she was convinced that God had given her this cancer, which was a completely incurable cancer. It was pancreatic cancer. And she was completely convinced that he'd given her this cancer to prove that his way of treating it naturally was the way to go. So she was doing lots of meditation every day. She had trained to do meditation with Deepak Chopra himself. So she was doing meditation every day. She was watching lots of Christian television about healing as well. She was doing, and she was really dedicated to this treatment. And we only did the treatment for 14 days. And of course, and I was sitting with her doing helping her psychologically, and also doing energy healing, just being with her and being in the energy for 2 or 3 hours a day for about 14 days, one after the other. And after that, her scans went back to normal. So I had had a lot of, after that, I treated a lot of people who were doing all sorts of different treatments, including the one that she'd done. And I have seen 2 or 3 other people who've had spontaneous remissions, but not all doing that same treatment. I must say I've seen a lot more recently using, not personally, but I have seen that since I've been looking at cannabis treatments, I've seen a lot more people seem to be having good results with that, but that's something else. But when my mother developed cancer and was told it was a really serious form of cancer, and she was completely well up to that point, told it was a really serious form of skin cancer that I'd never even heard of. And they gave her some treatment, but after the treatment, the tumor started coming back. And so I felt it was my responsibility to find a cure for her, because my father was in such a state, and she didn't want to leave my father, and my father didn't know how he was going to cope on his own. And anyway, I wanted to help them. So I knew that she wasn't going to be prepared to change her diet in a big way. And I didn't know about cannabis treatments at that time. So I looked for another alternative treatment and found one, which was called the Beck protocol, and started helping her with that. Well, that worked really well for the first 6 months. Her tumors went away almost completely, and everything was going well. And then one day, out of the blue, and also I say that was working. I was also sitting with her. She liked having energy healing, so I was sitting with her in loving energy pretty much every day. And when she went away on holiday for 2 weeks, when she came back was when the tumors had started to come back. So I don't know whether it was anything to do with that, or I don't know what it was, or how it, I have no idea. But the tumors started to come back. And what was interesting was that when they started to come back, my initial reaction was, oh my God, it's my responsibility. And I had always, until that point, had always felt totally responsible for my parents' happiness, for their health, for their, for everything like that. And so I was like, oh, and I must keep thinking positive, because all these negative thoughts that I'm having are going to make her worse. And all of these, lots and lots and lots of thoughts, as you can imagine. But luckily, even in amongst all of that, what came to me was, and this is before I knew about the 3 principles, right? So what came to me in that moment was, you need to get out of here. You need to go in my little camper van. You need to go in the little camper van up to the North Coast in Jersey, sit somewhere really quiet and really nice, and just be quiet and ask for guidance. So I did that, and I sat there and I asked for guidance, and within moments, really, I had this really strange experience where I can only describe as like a download into my brain. Now, I say that because I didn't actually hear words or anything, but what it was telling me, whatever it was, was telling me to repeat 3 phrases. And so I started repeating these 3 phrases. I was really calm, and I started repeating these 3 phrases. And within moments, I felt completely different. I was like, I knew that my parents were not my responsibility. I knew that whatever was happening with them was their journey, and it was not for me to interfere with that. And I knew that the bigger power, whatever it was, it is what's in control and not me. And which was, number one, a huge relief. And number 2, just meant that I could be with my parents then without all this thought. Whenever I had busy thoughts, I just started repeating these phrases. And right. So it wasn't, and that really helped, because over the next 6 months, my mother got worse and worse, and eventually, 6 months later, she died. So I was really, in those 6 months, I was really just busy nursing her. And about 2 weeks before she died was my birthday, and my sister had come over from France because my mother was so bad. And she gave me for my birthday, somebody should have told us. And that was the first time I had ever seen anything, and never heard about the 3 principles, didn't know anything about it. So I read the book and thought, well, I can't quite see how this is different from what I've read before, or all the stuff that I'd done before, but it feels different, right? Yeah, it feels different. So I read it again, and then it suddenly clicked that it was saying, oh, you don't have to take any notice of all that what I had thought of as negative thinking. Now, I don't think it's negative thinking anymore. It's just, I don't think there is any positive or negative. It's just thought. And but at the time, I had, I'd been reading all this stuff, and it was negative thinking, and right. So, but the funny thing was that I wasn't taking any notice of it anymore anyway, because that's what the 3 phrases were reminding me of anyway, right? But once I got into the 3 principles, and everybody kept saying, oh, you don't need techniques and all of this stuff, I was like, well, is that 3, the 3 phrases, is that a technique? And it took me 2 years to realize that the 3 phrases were not a technique. In fact, they were just reminding me of what the 3 principles say all the time. So because basically what they say is, whenever I have an uncomfortable thought or an uncomfortable feeling, what the phrases say is, don't let this go, don't let it fade, just trust. Okay, so it's basically telling me you don't have to do anything with this. You don't have to try and get rid of it. You don't have to try and stop. You don't have to do anything with the thoughts. You don't have to do anything with the feelings. Just trust that, in whatever is there. And it took me 2 years to realize that was the 3 principles, basically. It's like, oh yeah.
Oh, we're so funny, aren't we?
Oh dear. So for the first year after I came across the principles, I did what a lot of people do and spend a lot of time thinking about them. So I did a lot of reading and watching videos and trying to sort them out and trying to work out what was this one and what was that one and what's the other one, and getting to know people, and actually that was lovely. I signed up for Glasswing, which is now called something else, with Jamie Smart, and just to get to know people, really, not to do the program as such, but just to get to know people. And
good plan.
Which worked. And then because I kept finding one great video after another and one great book after another and all of that, and I wanted to share them with people, and yet it was, it would, every time somebody asked me, I would be spending so long looking for all of those things, looking for, oh yeah, where did I put that? Where was that one? And so on, that I thought, no, I'm going to have to try and put these somewhere so that it's much quicker for me to find, for people to find.
You needed a spreadsheet.
No, I didn't. It turns out. So I put, and well, that's so unlike, well, I would have thought that was so unlike me. I do like things organized, but when Elizabeth Lovius came along, and I started to do it on a Facebook page, but it was really hard to do it that way, there were so many things. And then Elizabeth Lovius came along and said, oh, somebody's told me to get in touch with you because I've got this big idea to make a big portal for, a portal where everybody can come through to find out about the 3 principles, and to find out what it's about, what they're about, who's who, where to find people, and also to have behind it a resources library.
Mm.
And people have told me that that's what you're doing. Would you like to do this library? And I'm like, yeah, you know, that's what I'm doing anyway. And she found the Zotero website and software, which makes it so much easier to do the library. And I just loved doing it. And she was like, oh, you're a really good librarian. And I'm like, me, a librarian? You know, that's the last thing I would just, because number one, because I hate being indoors. You know, I like, how I ever managed to be a doctor, I have no idea, because, you know, that's why I had to keep taking time off from it, I think, because I hate being indoors. I like being outside and doing stuff outside, and being in nature, and being by the beach, and being by the sea, and listening to, you know, just being, yeah. Mm. So, but when I'm doing that, well, I can do, the thing is that when you've got a computer and you've got the internet, you can do it anywhere, can't you? So I can do that outside anyway. And doing the library was, yeah, and I still do that now. So I still do the resources library. And I do it in fits and starts, you know, whenever I find something, I just put that in, and then of course I set up the, in fact, I must have set that up already, the Three Principles Resources group for people to share their resources. And that just makes it easier for me to find resources to put into the library as well. So that's how I got into that. And then, as I say, although I was a therapist before, I didn't really want to go back to being a therapist. No idea why, but I did do quite a lot of co-coaching when I started on the Glasswing course, and I loved doing that. Doing the coaching is lovely, because not like the coaching I used to do in the past, where, you know, you got into all the feelings and you came out feeling a total wreck. You know, in this, doing the coaching is lovely. You come out feeling wonderful, because you get into a bit like when I did energy healing. It's the same thing as doing the energy healing. So I'm because you calm down and you're with the person and you're in a lovely energy, in a lovely space. It's not work, is it? But for some reason, I wasn't drawn to doing that as a. I think part of me had this idea that I could help more people than doing a one-to-one thing. I wanted to be letting more people know about this, and I still didn't know how I was going to do that. I had so many ideas for books, so I have about half a dozen at least books half finished.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I found out about online programs, you know, doing online programs and so on. And I have done an online program with, I don't know if you know about that one. I did an online program with Wendy Sajasi. She wanted to do one about cancer without fear.
Oh, yeah.
So we did one called Cancer Without Fear, and we worked together really well, actually. Wendy and I, we're very good friends, and we worked together very well, even though we're actually very different, but it works really well. And at the moment, we're just giving away the course. We started off by, we put it on Udemy, so it's very cheap anyway, right? But Udemy is not the sort of place I think people are looking for an online course about cancer, you know, and how to deal with cancer, really. It's probably not something you would think that there was an online course for, especially anxiety around cancer, right? So Wendy was always giving, she was always saying to me, oh, I've given that course away, you don't mind? And in the end, I thought, why don't we just give it away? You know, why don't we just give it away? Because we both feel more comfortable with that, and we can do other things. But money will come from other places. We can just give this away. We'd much rather be giving this away to people, so that's fine. So at the moment we've got 1,000 of them to give away, and we've started doing that. So if anyone knows anyone with cancer that would be
Oh wow, that's brilliant.
Yeah, you're quite welcome. I'll give you the link for that so that
Yeah,
you can
please do.
that on. So that's a
yeah, that's great. That's really
yeah.
good.
So we had quite fun making that course, and really it's the same as anything in the principles. It applies to anybody, actually. You know, I mean, it's based around cancer, but actually it's all the same thing. Which sounds odd if you don't know what the principles are, and if you know, but once you do, you know, it's the same. So, which is a bit like my books as well. So my books, I keep changing the titles because I think, oh no, I want to write about that now, and then you know, and it's all the same. It's just a different title. It's all the same.
that is one of the things about the principles that goes against
I love it.
Most people see trying to do it. Get focused, know what it is you're going to do, know what it is, and then you come along with well, actually this is perfect for you as well. yeah it is
and then
stay focused.
Yeah, but there's one thing that's the one thing that I've found I do some work with, and I've got one or two people who are on at me to do more of this, which is one online course that I started to write the book of this, but actually you really need to experience it like you do really with the principles anyway. And so in the last year or so, I forget, I had an experience which really helped me. And so I came up with a way of using the small part of it that really helped me, and incorporated the 3 principles into it. So if you'd like to, I'll do it with you. It takes at most 10 minutes. I'll do it with you if you like.
Are you in there?
And
yeah.
And then what I thought was, because, well, I'll talk to you about that afterwards. So we'll do that first, and then we'll talk.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, so it is an experience, and to get the best experience of it it's best to close your eyes. So you can switch the videos off if you want to, so that people can't see you. You can, with your eyes closed. If you feel self-conscious about having your eyes closed, you can close.
I'm good with closing my eyes. That's cool.
Yes. I'm just anybody, if they don't feel like they can just put their video off. But it's best to do it with your eyes closed, because it is an internal experience, right? So the first thing that we're going to do, the first thing that I'm going to suggest that you do, is to imagine that the whole human world, the world that we live in, the planet that we live on, all of that has completely disappeared. And that you are now suspended in space. Okay, so there you are, suspended in space, and you can look around, feel around, whatever you want to do. And as you do that, what I'm going to suggest that you do now is to imagine that your human body has also disappeared. And what you'll notice when your human body has disappeared in that way is that you are still here. If you're not still here, let me know. Okay, so you're still here and still floating in space. You can still look around, see whatever else is there. And as you do that, what I'm going to ask you to do now is to imagine that everything else, the stars, the moon, the universe, the darkness, everything else in existence also disappears. So that now you are still here, you are still here, and you are suspended in infinite space, infinite void, basically. So in this infinite space, what I'd like you to do now is to look around, feel around, do whatever you need to do to discover where you end. Okay, so most people at this point are not able to find anywhere that they end. If anyone can find a place that you end, just let me know. Okay, so in this infinite space, you are that space. You are infinite, basically. You are infinite. You go to the ends of that infinite space. Unless you can find somewhere where you stop. But I haven't found anybody who could yet. And as you experience being this infinite space, you might also notice and be aware that you are aware, that you are conscious, that you are aware. And it's interesting to also look around and see if you can find where awareness is, and if you can find an end to awareness. Or you might just notice that awareness is everywhere too. Usually when I'm doing this with an individual person, so you can feed back if you notice anything different from what I'm noticing. So you may then have noticed that consciousness awareness is also everywhere, and that in fact it is just another word for who and what you are. So now you might also be aware of thought. And if you are aware of thought, you might notice where thought is. Is there one particular place where thought is, or is that also infinite? And again, most people experience that thought also is everywhere, that it is another word for who and what you actually are. Which is basically what Sydney Banks was saying, was that thought, mind, and consciousness are who we are, and are just three words describing the same thing. So now we're just going to take this a step further, and we are going to start bringing things back. So we're going to start by bringing back the universe and the stars, everything that we let go first. So we're going to bring that back, and as we bring it back, you'll notice that we're bringing it back through the power of thought. Okay, so we're bringing it back by using the power of thought, and we're bringing it back inside of you, because you are infinite. So anything that we're conjuring up now through the power of thought has to be inside of you. And now we've brought that back. Now we've brought back the universe and so on. What we're going to bring in now is the human body that you thought was you previously. So the human body, we're going to bring back now, and we're going to bring it in through the power of thought. Yep, we're using the power of thought to recreate this human body, and we're bringing the human body back inside of you. Inside of the infinite you. And this body is a human body for you to have as oneness, as that infinite one space, entity, energy, mind, whatever you want to call it, for you, oneness, to have an experience through this human body. So now we're going to bring back the world, the planet, the human world, and everyone else in it, all the other human beings. And we're going to do that again through the power of thought. And again, inside of you, inside the infinite you. So now your human body, the human body that you lived through, is now back on the human planet, along with all the other human beings. And all of that has been created through the power of thought inside of who you really are. Okay. So now you can open your eyes again and come back. Okay. And sometimes it's better to sit with that for a little bit, but that wasn't, when I had that experience initially, it wasn't done with the 3 principles and how that all works and so on. But to me, it fitted in so well. I thought, oh, that's a good way of doing it. So yeah, and I've had a few people who have been struggling with all this stuff about, oh, I'm getting it intellectually, but I'm not understanding how. I'm not really experiencing the 3 principles. And when they've gone through this, they've like, oh yeah, now now it makes more sense, because it's an experience rather than a trying to work it out thing. So that's the way of.
Really lovely, thank you. What did you?
I went to sleep.
Yeah,
I felt something like I can't put words on it, because you just can't sometimes with it. But there's somewhere in the middle of that something did a little shift for me.
Yeah, I found that very helpful. That was really beautiful. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good. And yeah.
Anyone else?
Usually,
Julie, or
yeah.
What was anyone else's experience of that?
I don't recommend having a very loud Spider-Man movie playing in the room above you. It's somewhat distracting. But it was excellent, yes, very good.
Good. Usually it's a good idea to have some time afterwards to just sit in the to sit with it, really. But yeah,
that was really lovely. I really enjoyed that. It was lovely.
Oh, good. Yeah,
I think Beck did too.
So what I've done now is I've done a recording of that, or I keep doing recordings of it, which I haven't quite finished doing yet. And yeah, so I'm looking at making it into a program where you do that every day for 21, 28 days or something. But and then notice, because people tend to come back afterwards and say, yes, but as you do, yes, but then what about this? And you you can hear that they are now identifying with the human being again. And usually I missed a bit saying really that usually I talk about that the human body is really like a virtual reality headset. So the virtual reality headset thinks that it's going to get enlightened when it can't. You know, that we already are enlightenment. You know, there is no thing about being enlightened or getting enlightened. We as oneness already are. You know, we're it. So there's nothing to do. There is no enlightenment process or enlightenment experience or whatever. And there's, you know, some people have had this, and some people think they've got to have this deep spiritual experience and they've got to have some, you know, white lights and all of that stuff. But you don't, because that is just the virtual reality headset thinking that it's going to get enlightened, which it can't. Right. And it will keep coming up with all sorts of questions and, oh yes, but what about this, or yes, but what about that, and that's just so what I tend to say to people then is, well, just notice, just ask yourself, who is asking that question? You know, who is asking that question? Is that you, oneness, or is that you, the virtual reality headset, you know, the virtual reality human being? Sort of. Yeah,
that is a great way of kind of helping people to see what is going on. And it's really interesting. I mean, that's why I love these conversations, because it's really lovely to hear how different people express, you know, express what they've seen, express what's changed for them. And I just think it's so helpful to hear it in different ways and have these different experiences and have, you know, and all of it helps and chips away, you know, kind of makes us see through.
Mm-hmm.
See that we're seeing the world through a virtual reality headset and begin to kind of see, and that's okay, that's fine, but just know that's what's going on.
Yeah, it really helped me in thinking after that, in just knowing after that, well, actually I really haven't got to do anything, you know. I can just just be here, enjoy this. I'm not in control. I'm just here to, you know, I can just enjoy whatever's happening. So yeah.
That was really lovely, and I really, really, really enjoyed your story. So Julie, what was your experience of that? Is she muted?
I'm not. Yeah, I'm unmuted. I found I actually couldn't let go of my body, which I found quite interesting, considering my problems. And when I was up there, if you see what I mean, I just had this vision of a bubble, like a big pear droppy type bubble.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that I believe I am, or I think I have, that I've created, was inside that bubble, and I couldn't get rid of my body. I thought that was really, really interesting. Well, God knows what it means. I don't need to know what it means. But but I certainly felt the expansiveness of that. Definitely, yeah. And it was a very good way of seeing the principle. Very good way.
And this is, you know, with anything, a talk, a metaphor, a relaxation, anything, some things are more powerful for some people and different people at different times and that's what, that's why it's brilliant. Like you say, the library, the whole, everything you do there, it's so, there's so many different things there for different people to come at this from a different angle and see what's to be seen. It's kind of like, look here and look, okay, go over there and have a look, oh, stand on your head and have a look, do this until you see.
I think it actually amazes me completely that for something so simple, you know, for something that there's nothing to do, and that it's so simple that we have so many books and so many, you know, the resources. There's like at least there's about 2,000 resources in the resources library already. So it's like crazy. And how we manage to talk about it for so long and so often, I have no idea.
And yet we do, and it's a fun conversation.
Why make it simple when we can make it complicated?
It's just lovely to, I think it's lovely to connect with people, and to, you know, we laugh a lot, don't we?
I noticed
ourselves, and don't take anything very serious.
No.
It's been an absolute, I've loved that tonight. It's been, and it's really, really, really been nice to hear your story and get to know you. That has been lovely. So has anyone got any questions or anything that they would like to share, or anything anyone would like to, you know?
Just the fact that your story is absolutely fascinating, and I can resonate with a lot of it, you know, this constant searching and doing courses and looking for this, and knowing that you know, that there's a spiritual being out there that's me, and then realizing actually I just, you know, looking outside myself for all that. I was never going to find it. So but your story is just amazing. I really loved it. Really interesting. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I think it is fascinating hearing, you know, as human beings, I think we love a story, don't we? And it's really good. And I think there's little gems in there. There's always little bits that you hear, and, you know, for me, something. But everybody that I speak to, and, you know, on these lovely people webinars, I've spoken to all sorts of, you know, across the board, all sorts of different, you know, no two are alike, and yet there's little gems in all of them. There's just been something amazing in everyone we've done, you know, and it's so amazing when people, we're so different and yet we're exactly the same. It's beautiful. It's lovely.
Wonderful.
I was just going to say that Anne slowly disappeared into the darkness.
I didn't realise. It was getting so dark. I didn't even notice it was getting so dark here. Because we're further south, it's getting darker earlier, and I hadn't put a light on.
It's still daylight here. It's still.
Sorry about that. I should have done it before.
It's fine. It's fine.
Just because we were missing your beautiful face.
So has anyone got anything else that they would like to ask Anne or share? Okay, well, it's it's been really, really lovely. That was very special to me. I really enjoyed that. Thank you very much. So who have we got as our lovely guest next week?
Next week we have the lovely Christian McNeil.
Oh yes, Christian.
Join us for that. I don't actually know
her. Oh, don't you?
I know of her, but I've never met or spoken to her, so I'm looking forward to that one.
I've actually met Christian. I actually do genuinely really know Christian, so that's cool.
A rare treat. A real person. So join us for that.
Join us next week for that. It'll be lovely. And if anyone is watching this, or anyone here is near enough to come to our meetup on Saturday, we have a 3 Principles Great Conversation Day this Saturday, where we'll be having a lot of fun and a lot of laughs. That's kind of usually, and cake. Usually there's cake. Always cake. That's kind of. We need Martin to come to something again, because we haven't. Martin makes the most amazing flapjack. It's just to die for. So, you know, we need to get him here. Always come into Devon. Hopefully.
I'll definitely be there.
Hopefully you're going to be on our webinar in person, aren't you, Martin?
I think so. Yes. Yeah.
With flapjacks.
I don't know about that. I'm camping. I'm going to be camping. I think flapjack might be difficult.
That's no.
Excuses.
I'll bring the ingredients to your house.
Yeah, we have a kitchen.
we
you
do.
can use.
We have a kitchen. And if ever you're in the area, Anne, if ever you're in North Devon, please do come and visit. We would absolutely love to see you. And we have a spare room, and we have a kitchen, and we have
Thank you.
come and stay. It's always good to connect with people. And it was
Yeah.
lovely to sort of see you, Erica, tonight. We kind of saw your face for a minute there. Hello. Hope you're okay. Always good to see
know
you.
you're there.
Good. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for a really lovely webinar. Thank you for a great conversation. And I hope our paths will cross again soon.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks all. Thanks, Anne.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.